Hi, in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make these bracelets right here. These bracelets are my own original designs, and they are called the 3-petal flower bracelets. And sometimes I call them the 3-pin flower bracelets. But in this tutorial, they will be the 3-petal flower bracelets. And, well, I already have a tutorial for this bracelet when you use just 3 pins or a finger loom. And there will be a link to that tutorial in the description. But this tutorial this tutorial here is for just any ordinary loom, such as a rainbow loom. So anyway, to make these bracelets, you are going to need your loom, a hook, a clip, and I will be using this blue colored C-clip today. I won't be using a regular clear one. And you will also need rubber bands. Now, before you get any rubber bands or figure anything out, you need to know how many rubber bands you need to make yourself a fishtail. So if you do not know, you should probably try to figure that out now. And well, once you know how many rubber bands you need to make a fishtail, you'll be able to figure out how many of all the other colors you need. Because this is a growing bracelet and I can't tell you how many rubber bands you'll need. But anyway, I'm going to explain the different groups. This A group here, the A rubber bands, they are going to be the actual petals on the little flowers. These B rubber bands are going to be the center of the flowers, so the gold and silver. These C rubber bands are going to be the bottoms of the flowers, and they are this one here is white, and I do believe this one here is turquoise. And these D rubber bands are going to be the actual fishtail, or the actual bracelet, and the flowers will be attached to the D rubber bands as well. Now, the number of rubber bands you're going to need is going to appear on the screen now. And now that you know what you're going to need, get your supplies and use the pause button so that you can do so, and I will see you once you have everything. Alright, now before we do begin making our actual bracelet, we need to make all of the individual little flowers first. Now, if you're using just 3 pins, this could take a while, but if you're using an entire loom, this can take a lot less time. So anyway, to begin making your flowers, you're going to need the arrow on your loom pointing towards you, or your loom needs to look like you're about to get your hook and actually start looming, but you're not. But have your hook nearby because you will need it very shortly. And you're also going to need all of your A color rubber bands. We're going to be using 2 A color rubber bands per flower, so you'll see here in a moment. So anyway, to begin, we're going to start down here near these first pins. We're going to get 2 A color rubber bands, and the instructions are a little bit different if you're left-handed or if you're right-handed. If you are right-handed, because I am left-handed, you will do the same thing I'm doing, only on the right side of your loom. So we'll be using a triangle of pins, so 1, 2, and 3 if you're left-handed, and if you're right-handed, you will be using these 3 pins here. So you'll do the same thing as me, only on the right. So anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to get 2 A color rubber bands and place them here on this middle pin and stretch them in between this first left pin and the second left pin. If you're on the right side, you'll be over here, like this. But anyway, what you're going to do once you have your rubber bands like this, you're going to twist them down onto this bottom pin here. Then you're going to grab the top side of this rubber band, so there's this side of the rubber band that's on the bottom of the bottom pin, and this side here that's kind of closer, or that's on the top. You're going to grab this side here that's on the top side of the pin, pull it up and twist it, pull it up and out, so out back between the 2 pins like this, and then twist these rubber bands onto this top pin. Now, down here, the rubber band is not twisted, or the rubber bands are not twisted, so we just need to grab them, take them off of the pin, and twist them. Does not matter which direction. Now you should have a shape that looks something like this, and now we're going to make another flower. So now we're going to skip this second middle pin, and we're going to move on to the third middle pin, and use these 3 pins here. If you're using the right side of your loom, you will be using these 3 pins. So anyway, once again, we're going to get 2 A-color rubber bands. We're going to kind of put them on this middle pin here, and pull them out between either the left pins or the right pins that are right next to it. Then you're going to take the rubber bands you're holding with your fingers and twist them down onto the bottom of these 2 pins. Now you're going to grab the top side of the rubber band, so the top side on this outer pin here, up here. You're going to grab them and pull them outwards, back away from this middle pin and out between the 2 outer pins here, so the left or right pins. And then you're going to bring them up and twist them around this top pin. Now down here we need to twist this rubber band as well. Just twist it any direction you would like. So you take it off the pin and twist it. And now you should have something like this. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to do this for your flowers one more time, and then I'm going to leave you to make the rest of the flowers that you need on your loom. Alright, so to make, or to place the petal rubber bands for your flowers, you need to skip the next middle pin. So here's one, skip this next pin, and go to this middle pin here. That's the middle pin we're going to use. Get 2 A-color rubber bands, kind of set them on this middle pin, and pull them out between these 2 outer pins, so either the left or the right, depending on what hand you use. Then you're going to bring these rubber bands down and twist them onto the lower outer pin. Then you're going to grab the top side of the rubber band, so on the top side of the pin, so we have the bottom down here and the top up here. You're going to grab the rubber bands on the top side of this pin, pull them away from the middle pin and out between the 2 outer pins, and bring the rubber bands up and twist them onto the top outer pin, I guess we could say. Then you need to twist this rubber band, twist the rubber band again down here on this bottom outer pin. So you grab the rubber bands there, take them off, and twist them back on. So now you should have a shape that looks something like this. Alright, so you're going to do this going all the way up your loom as far as you can go, or until you have made as many flowers as you need to make. Now, some people will still have A-color rubber bands once they reach the top of their loom. I will show you what you need to do if that happens to you. So just keep doing the same twisty pattern for the petals, going as far up your loom as possible, or until you run out of A-color rubber bands. I'm going to fast forward this part. Just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so if you're like me and you reach the end of your loom and you can no longer place any more little twisty petal rubber bands or A-color rubber bands, what you're going to do is you're going to turn your loom around so that the arrow is pointing away from you now, and now you have pins available on whichever side whichever side your hand that you usually use is on. So I use my left hand. Now I have pins that I can use here on the left. Now if you do not need to do this, then just go ahead and let this part play, or you can skip to the time that I have as a caption or in the description, depending on where I put it. So anyway, now what we're going to do is we're just going to do the same thing we did when the arrows were pointing towards us, only now the arrows are pointing away. So we'll start down here. What you do is you take your 2A color rubber bands, and I'm going to fast forward this part as well, so just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so as you can see here, I have now finished placing all of my A color rubber bands and twisting them. And now they're all on my loom, and I turned my arrow so now it's back pointing towards me. And if you have a larger wrist and you needed more flowers and you still have A color rubber bands, you'll have to make the rest of your flowers after we take these off. So I'll tell you what to do once we take these flowers off. But anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to add all of our B color rubber bands. And we're also going to add our C color rubber bands, but first we're going to add our B color rubber bands. So you're also going to want to have your hook nearby, so put that there, or just nearby. And yeah, so all you're going to do is you're going to take one B color rubber band. I have 11 B color rubber bands because I need 11 flowers to make myself a bracelet. And yeah, so all you're going to do is you're going to take a B color rubber band, find the 3 pins that there is an A color rubber band on, so these 2 A color rubber bands on these 3 pins. You take the B color rubber band and just stretch it across all 3 pins that these A color rubber bands are on. Really easy. Same here, get a B color rubber band and place it going across all 3 of the pins that this A color rubber band is on, and that's all you do. So even on the right side of your loom or the left side, depending on what hand you use, you will do the same thing. So over here I would just place this on all 3 pins. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue this part. I'm not going to fast forward because it's really quick and easy to do. Just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so there we go. Once you have placed all of the little, well, they look like triangle shapes, so all the little triangle shapes in B color rubber bands that you have or that you can, because you might have bigger wrists or something. Now you're going to get your hook, and we're going to loom all of the flowers on your loom. Now looming is very simple as well. All you do is, I'll show you here on this flower, you just loom all of the bottom rubber bands. So here on this bottom outer pin, you grab the bottom rubber bands with your hook and you pull them over the pin. Same here on this middle pin, and the same here on this top outer pin. Now, even with these flowers here on the opposite side of your loom that you hold your hook and do placing with, you will still loom all the bottom rubber bands as well. So it's the same on both sides no matter what. So everyone's doing the same thing, everyone will just be on a different side of their loom. So you just grab all the bottom rubber bands on a pin and pull them over. And only a B color rubber band should be left on the 3 pins the flower is on. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what you need to do one more time, and then I'm going to fast forward. So, to loom a flower, you just go on one pin, grab all of the bottom rubber bands, they should be A color rubber bands, pull them over the pin, another outer pin, do the same thing, and here on this middle pin you do the same thing as well. Grab all the bottom rubber bands, they should be A color rubber bands, and pull them over the pin. And that's all you do. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward myself looming the rest of these flowers. Just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, So, as you can see here, I have loomed all of the A color rubber bands, or in other words, bottom rubber bands, for all of my flowers on my loom. And hopefully you should have as well. And what we're going to do now is we're going to want to push down all these B color rubber bands. Alright. And then we're going to get all of our C color rubber bands. And you should have the same number of C color rubber bands as you did B color rubber bands. So I have 11 C color rubber bands here. And these rubber bands here are going to be the bottom of the flower. Here in this example, this one is white and this one here is turquoise. Alright. So, to place these C color rubber bands, it's very easy as well. It's the exact same thing as placing your B color rubber bands. You just find a C color rubber band, find the 3 pins a B color rubber band is on, so these 3 here. Take the C color rubber band and place it across all 3 of these pins. Same for a set of 3 pins on the opposite side. You just take a C color rubber band, find the 3 pins a B color rubber band is on, and place the C color rubber band across. Alright, so that's all you do for the C color rubber bands. Go ahead and place yours. I'm not going to fast forward this part. I'm just going to go ahead and continue this. Just use the pause button if you need to. Now, as you can see here, I now have all of my C color rubber band triangles. And if you have extra C color rubber bands, they are part of your extra flowers. Or you just got extra rubber bands. But if you've had extra of all of your different colors because you're going to need more flowers for your bracelet, then just put those off to the side and I'll tell you what to do with those in a moment. So now we're going to get our hooks and we're going to loom the rubber bands for our flowers again. It's the exact same thing as the first time we loomed them. We just go to a flower, so make sure the arrow is pointing towards you, of course. So you go to your flower. On one pin, you grab the bottom rubber band, pull it over. On another pin, grab the bottom rubber band, pull it over. And on another pin, grab the bottom rubber band, pull it over. And that's all you do. You do this for all of the flowers that you are making on your loom. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward myself looming the rest of my flowers. Just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, and as you can see here, I have loomed all of the bottom rubber bands. And now I need to push down all of these C color rubber bands. And now all we need to do is we just need to add the last rubber bands to our flowers, and then we can be done making these things. Now we're going to get our flowers ready so we can place the D color rubber bands that we need to actually start making our bracelet. Or yes, for our flowers and stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring all of the rubber bands on, yes, all of the rubber bands for each flower onto one pin. Now, whatever pin you want to use, it does not matter. But I'm going to be bringing all of the rubber bands for my flowers to the center pin, so here in the middle row. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're just going to pick our pin, whatever we're going to move everything to. We're going to grab the rubber band on one of the other pins, so the one you haven't, yes, one of the pins that you did not choose. You're just going to grab that rubber band with your hook, carefully take it off of that pin, and move it over to the pin that you have chosen to put all of the little rubber bands on. You'll do the same for the other pin. Grab the rubber band that's on it, carefully pull it off, and bring it over to the pin that you chose to move everything to. And the second one you move is usually the most difficult, or a little bit more tricky than the first. Alright, so I'll show you again. I'm going to be moving all the rubber bands to this middle pin. You just grab the rubber band on one of the pins, carefully take it off, and move it to the pin you're going to be moving everything to. And then you're going to grab the rubber band on the other pin, carefully take it off, and move it to the same pin. And that's all you do. You do that for all of your flowers on your loom. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and show you one more time what you need to do, and then I'm going to fast forward. So I'm going to show you here on the opposite side, so on the right now. I'm going to be moving all the rubber bands to this middle pin. You're just going to grab the rubber band on one of the other two pins that you did not choose. You're going to take the rubber band off very carefully and move it to the pin you have chosen. And then you do the same for the other pin. You just grab the rubber band that's on there, very carefully take it off, and move it to this middle pin here. Or whatever pin you've chosen, sorry. And well, that's all you do. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward myself, moving all of the rubber bands that I need to on my loom. You're going to do the same, but I'm going to fast forward. So just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so as you can see here, I have moved all of the rubber bands that I needed to. So now all of my flowers have their rubber bands on one pin. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add the rubber bands we need to for our flowers to be a part of the bracelet. So you're going to need to get however many flowers you have. That's how many D color rubber bands you need to get. So you need to get some D rubber bands. And I have 11 flowers, so I'm going to need 11 of these rubber bands. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take one of our D color rubber bands. We're going to find the pin that one of our flowers is sitting on. We're going to place this rubber band on that pin and stretch it out to another pin nearby. So another kind of close pin that isn't over another flower. So I'll show you here in a moment. So have this rubber band stretched across two pins. One of these pins has to have a flower. So here on this next flower, you get a D color rubber band. You place it on one of your flowers. So one of the pins has a flower. You cannot stretch the rubber band up like this, where there would be another flower underneath of this rubber band. Make sure that does not happen. Alright, I'm going to make my rubber bands go up. Alright, and you do this for all of the flowers on your loom. So this flower here, you take a D color rubber band, stretch it across two pins. One of these two pins has to have a little flower underneath. Do the same thing again for all of the flowers on your loom. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue this. I'm not going to really fast forward unless this tutorial ends up being really long. Okay, so now I have added all of the rubber bands for all of my flowers. Now what we're going to do is a little bit different from before, but really just the same. We're just going to loom all of the flower rubber bands that are underneath of these rubber bands we just placed. onto the rubber bands we just placed. So you can use your hook, or you can actually, for some looms, you can use your fingers and just grab the flower. So grab a flower and pull it over the pin and onto this rubber band above it. And be very careful when you do this, because you do not want this rubber band to pop off of your loom, because then you will lose your flower and you have to remake it. Now, if you do this with your hook, you might want to grab one of these little layers. So you have 3 of these little tiny layers of your flower. You're just going to grab one of them at a time and pull them over the pin that way. And that will help keep this rubber band that's stretched across 2 pins stay on. So you're going to do this for all of the flowers on your loom. Just loom the bottom rubber bands over the pin onto the rubber band that you placed above them. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and actually fast forward this part. Just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so there we go. Now as you can see, I have loomed all of the flowers onto the rubber bands above them. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make these rubber bands that are remaining into slip knots. So to do this, you're going to get your hook. You're going to grab one side of the rubber band on one of the pins, carefully pull it off, and bring it over to the other side of the rubber band on the other pin. So that wasn't really a good example because you probably weren't able to see very well, but you will be able to see a little better on this next one. So what you do to make this rubber band here, the rubber bands remaining, slip knots, you're going to grab one side of the rubber band on one of the pins, with your hook carefully pull it off, and bring it over to the other side of the rubber band on the other pin. There you go. So you'll do this for all of your flowers, and then I'll show you how to actually make them into slip knots, because I just now realized I did not show you how to do that. So just make sure you have all of your rubber bands on one pin. Well, not all of them. Like have a rubber band on one pin. So I'm going to go ahead and actually fast forward. Use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so to make these rubber bands actually slip knots, here's what my loom looks like. Okay, so to make these rubber bands actually slip knots, you're going to go to one of the pins where you have 2 little layers of a rubber band. You're just going to grab the bottom rubber band, pull it over the pin, not pulling the other layer off, and then releasing it. Then you can grab your little flower and give it a tug, and this will tighten the slip knot. Now do not tighten the slip knot too much, because you need to be able to undo the slip knot to make your bracelet. Alright, so I'll show you again. To make these rubber bands a slip knot, you're going to grab, you have these 2 little layers on one pin. You grab the bottom of these 2, pull it over the pin, and just release it. Then you're going to grab the actual flower and give it a little tug, tightening the slip knot, but don't tighten it too much because you'll need to undo it later. Oop. And yeah. Also, some of your flowers will be a little bit messy, but you can just adjust them in a moment, or just adjust them now. And yeah, so you're going to go ahead and do this for all of the flowers on your loom. I'm going to fast forward myself doing this because this will just take a few seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward this part. Use the pause button if you need to. So as you can see here, I have all of my little flowers. Some of them are a little bit messy, but I can adjust them later. And well, once you have made your flowers that you need to, it is now time to make your bracelet. Now, if you still need to make more flowers, because you still have more A-color rubber bands and all that, so say you needed to make 14 flowers, but your loom wasn't big enough, you're going to go ahead and just make them now. Just use the pause button, but everyone else is going to get started making their bracelets. So if you still need to make another flower, then go ahead and make them the same way you did the first time. Alright, so now it's time to make our bracelet. So we're going to need all of our flowers and all of our D-color rubber bands. So whatever is left. You should have 11 or however many flowers you have. So I have 11, so I should have 11 less rubber bands of this pile. But anyway, now it's time to make the actual bracelet. This is probably the easiest part of the entire thing. Making the flowers is really time consuming, but making the bracelet is probably the easiest thing once you get the pattern. So, to make your bracelet, you're going to need 2 pins on your loom. Any 2 pins will work. You can use 2 pins on the left side of your loom, 2 pins on the right. Or you could probably use these pins down here. I'm going to have my loom so that the arrows are pointing to the left because I am left-handed. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So to begin, we're going to get a rubber band. So we're going to call these rubber bands now, just rubber bands, and we're going to call these flowers, so pretty obvious. So we're going to get, I'm going to go here, a rubber band, and you're going to place it going across the 2 pins you've chosen to use, but when you do, you're going to twist the rubber band like so. If you already know how to make a fishtail, this will be very easy for you. But anyway, now what we're going to do is we're going to get a flower. So we're going to get our first flower. And we're going to undo the slip knot very carefully. Then we're going to place this rubber band that used to be the slip knot going across the 2 pins that we are using. And we're going to count this rubber band with the flower on it as 1. Now we're going to get another rubber band and stretch it across these 2 pins. And we're going to count this rubber band we just placed as 2. Now, because we have 3 layers of rubber bands, we're going to loom the bottom rubber band because that's how we make a fishtail. So just loom the bottom rubber band on both pins. And I'm going to adjust my camera. Alright, that seems better. Alright, so what we just placed was 2. Now we're going to get another rubber band, place it, and we're going to count that as 3. Now we're going to loom the bottom rubber band again. Do this on both pins. Now get another rubber band, place it, count this as 4. We have 3 layers of rubber bands, loom the bottom. And finally, 1 more rubber band, place it across, and we're going to count this one as 5. So now we're going to loom the bottom rubber bands again, and now we're going to start the pattern over. So we're going to get another number 1, so a flower, and this is the pattern I'm showing it to you right now, so you pay attention. So you're going to get another flower, you're going to undo the slip knot very carefully. You're going to place the rubber band that was a slip knot going across these 2 pins here. And make sure you try to get the flowers to point the same direction so you don't have to do any adjusting later. So this rubber band that was a slip knot, we're going to count it as 1. Then we're going to loom the bottom rubber band because we have 3 layers here. Here's a 2. So just get a regular rubber band, stretch it across. That is 2 now. Get another rubber band, stretch it across, count it as 3. And make sure you're looming after you place the rubber band. Get another rubber band, place it across, count it as 4. And then one more rubber band, place it across, count it as 5. Now we're going to get another flower rubber band and the pattern starts over. So, what the pattern is every 5th rubber band you place is going to be a flower rubber band. Or it's kind of like that. The first rubber band you place out of 5 is going to be a flower rubber band, and well, I'm going to show you the pattern one more time, and then I'm going to fast forward myself making the rest of my bracelet. Or I'm probably going to cut the video because this tutorial seems pretty long. So anyway, the pattern for making this bracelet is you start off with getting a flower rubber band, undoing its slip knot very carefully, and the rubber band that was a slip knot, you're going to stretch it across these 2 pins here, making sure the flower is pointing the same direction as the other flowers. So they're all pointing towards me. And this rubber band that was a slip knot will be number 1. So now we loom the bottom rubber band on both pins because there are 3 layers. But we do not count the looming. The only thing we count is placing rubber bands. So that's why I'm not saying anything for looming, because you're going to loom no matter what. So that was 1, or no, that was 2. No, that was 1. Okay, that was 1. Make sure you keep track because it's easy to lose track. Okay, so now we're placing another rubber band. That's 2. So the looming is not counted as 2, only the rubber band. So you still loom, but the rubber band is 2, not the looming. So you get another rubber band and you place it. That one is 3. Now you loom. Get another rubber band, place it across, count it as 4. And lastly, you get one more rubber band, and this one you place as well, and you count it as 5. Then you loom. And then the pattern starts over. So you're just going to continue this pattern of placing a flower and then 4 more rubber bands after it over and over until you have finished making your fishtail. Now, you may run out of flowers, or you may have extra rubber bands left over. You should have gotten the number of fishtail rubber bands, or yes, number of decolor rubber bands that you need. So if you do have extra rubber bands, go ahead and add them, even if you don't have any more flowers, because you might have had to round down, and yeah. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here. I'm not going to fast forward, because it's going to take me a little while to finish my bracelet, and then once I'm finished, I'm going to show you how to take your bracelet off and make it a bracelet. So just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so as you can see here, I have now made my bracelet long enough, so now it will fit around my wrist, and I've used all of my decolor rubber bands. And what we're going to do now is we're going to finish off the bracelet and make it an actual bracelet. So have your clip nearby, and what we should have on our looms right now, so on our 2 pins, we should have these 2 layers of rubber bands. So if you do not have these 2 layers of rubber bands, instead if you had 3, go ahead and loom the bottom one. What we're going to do here is we're going to loom the bottom rubber band again. So here on this pin, we grab the bottom rubber band with our hook, pull it over and release, and do the same on the other pin. Now we should only have one rubber band remaining on our 2 pins. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this rubber band and move it onto 1 pin. So we use our hook, grab the rubber band on 1 pin, then we move it over to the other pin. So now we have the rubber band all on 1 pin. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get our clip and attach it to these 2 little layers here. Now this may be a little bit difficult, so what you can do is you can stretch the rubber band back to another pin. You can use your hook, or you can just use your fingers. I just used my fingers. You're going to get your clip now, and then you can put it on these 2 little, or well, this 1 rubber band. You're going to take rubber bands off of the pins, and now you have your clip on the rubber bands, or the rubber band, and now you need to attach it to your cap band. So go to the other side of your bracelet, to the other end, where your first flower is, and there's another rubber band that's kind of wrapping around it. It's a little bit circular shape. This is the cap band, so try to separate it from the flower as much as possible, but you're going to want to get this cap band. You're going to want to stretch it across 2 pins on your loom. Get your clip on the other side of your bracelet and attach it to this stretched out cap band. Alright, once your clip is on, you can take the cap band off of your loom, and now your clip is attached to both ends of your bracelet, and now you have your bracelet. So now you can put your bracelet on. And bam! So as you can see here, I am now wearing my 3 petal flower bracelet, and now I'm not. But now as you can see, I have it, and hopefully you have yours as well. And now it's time for the outro. So I would like to thank you for watching my tutorial. Hopefully it showed you how to make a 3 petal flower bracelet successfully on your loom. If you weren't as successful with using your loom, you can take a look at the tutorial for just 3 pins, it's on a finger loom though, and I do think I do a little bit better with explaining on that tutorial. And so anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say for this tutorial, other than thanks for watching, and bye!